The good thing about your band is that Halloween happens every year. So it's a never ending marketing cycle for you. I mean, it's really a great brand.
And Eddie, are you looking at like something like a fan avatar to align with the brand of the band, and then trying to find that idea where those two things meet? Or it's a good idea, we know it works, and you just go with it?
That I mean, I'll tell you the idea real quick. We don't have to get too deep into it, but obviously the band's all around horror and Halloween and that feeling. So I called Mike up. We called the president of the label. We got the approval on the budget, and we basically went up to their home state of Massachusetts, right? Where they're from? I'm sure it's one of those. And on 3 days' notice, we rented out a haunted house the week of Halloween. We brought an entire film crew up there with us. We dressed Spencer, the lead singer of the band, up as a character in the haunted house and spent the entire day filming him scaring the shit out of his fans, because we opened it up just to the Ice Nine Kills fans. And it was a great piece of content. I mean, we got 5 pieces of content out of it. Traveled. It was really good.
That's awesome. Tim, can you give, do you have like an example or an anecdote of something that you guys have done at Spinefarm where it was that perfect mix of brand and fan, that something that really clicked? Or something that you're working on now that you're excited about?
Working on now is tough because the whole world has stopped. I will say, well, one project I'm really excited about is one of our new signings, Saul. I'll just use them as an example, because one of the reasons why we signed the guys, and this kind of I think ties everything a little bit together. We saw that the guys had been calling their fans equals and basically saying we're no bigger than you. You're on the same level. We're all in this together. They had a hit song called Brother, which was about the 2 members of the band, their brother had passed away, so it was a letter to them, and it just felt so real. We were able to do an acoustic version. We're still working on that video to be a memorial piece for that song, and it kind of has led itself into the timing now. With everything going on, everybody's lost someone, and having this fan group called the Equals that's been so active has really helped to drive us. Like they want to be on the same level as everybody, so they did their live concert shoot from their garage now for the quarantine. Another example is with Atreyu, with the Superhero song we just released. It was originally written from the perspective of being a superhero to your kids, but we talked about it and we're like, there's so many everyday superheroes right now, so we're trying to tie that song into thanking people, and running with that. Sometimes it's the moment, sometimes it's the band imagery. I think with Ice Nine Kills too, I think you guys would agree, but you have to have the chops to start too. Like it starts there, and then when you can tie the image together, it can be magical.
That's awesome. Thank you. Derek, with your clients, how amenable are they to your ideas, and how often are they coming to you with ideas that you can find ways to apply?
Sure. It depends on the band and what their personalities are and how adept they are to their own likeness. And some bands, like you take a band like Palais Royale, 90% of the ideas are starting at least from them and wanting to implement, because they know their brand so well. There's then in other cases it's just like a lot of things to derive from the group chats that I have with each individual ones. The main thing that I've found that's been the most helpful in making any of this happen, and I'm sure Mike can also agree to this as management, is the constant communication with your bands and just talking ideas, talking about the different songs, and whether it's my idea or whether it's one of their ideas or it's half and half, or the execution of it all is the most important. Like we put together these really cool ideas. It's seeing it through and making it happen, that and watching it grow. That's where the most success comes from. But to go back to your original point, there's no set path. Like it comes from any which way. And mostly it's because we're all just having constant discussions about the overall project.
Mike, Derek mentioned the idea of ideas versus execution, and Eddie mentioned earlier budgets. Like, how are you guys trying to find creative ways to do things within a budget?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the beauty. Every one of us on this call has had a background of scrapping and knowing how to do it. Like, all of us more or less come from the same world. We've known each other 15, 20 years, and probably why we've ended up on this call and is, we know how to do that. And it looks different every single time, but the beauty is, I think so much of it is about like trying to find these ways to validate the artist, in sort of a step by step, capacity. And so you do something at the lowest budget, that gets some eyes and ears. And again, when Eddie talked about going and filming this event, cool. It was amazing to do it at this, location that was near the band's town and to have it Spencer involved, but we created all this content that gets to be spread to the world. And just like he did with ICP and Forbes, right? It's like, oh, okay, all of a sudden there's this extra layer of validation that goes to that band. So, as you do the first one, which there's so many tools that artists have in their own hands that really it's just the idea. I mean, Eddie's team was helpful to execute because the rest of us were doing a million other things in regards to our artists. But if I'm a band sitting at home, looking at this video, I'd be saying, wonderful. The takeaway is, let's get the great idea and then figure out the way to execute it. Everybody has, the tools are in the either an individual's or the artist's hands to do that with.
But
Eddie,
to your point, I think that the great idea doesn't work if the band doesn't have the great foundation, which, thankfully Iceland Kills has the great foundation, and they've, spent the last 10 years laying it. I don't think that would have worked for every band.
But I love that idea that the walk before you run a little bit with, your marketing. Eddie, are there like just missed opportunities that you see a lot of artists who have these tools within their grasp that they just don't take advantage of?
Every day.
So
every day.
What's a couple things that just jump out at you, just make you want to scream?
Well, Mallory's probably heard me talk about this a million times at this point. Artists today, or labels, whatever you want to call them, they forget to pin songs to the Spotify page. Drives us crazy. Or, whoever watches this, don't take this the wrong way, because you probably know who it is. When you're on Instagram and you're posting about something going on and you post a link in the description, it's not clickable. So you're marketing into an ether. And the simplest 101 is put the link in the bio and just write the links in the bio. But a lot of these rock bands, they just don't understand that yet. They haven't really come into 2020.
Tim, anything that frustrates you?
I 100% agree with that. I mean, if one of the things I was always taught too is if you're not including your sales link, why are you doing it as well? Link, like a service like Linkfire, which you can link to every single store in every single country around the world, is just a basic. Like if I'm a kid and somewhere in Sweden, I want to be able to click and find my store and localize it. But yeah, forgetting a simple thing like that, it's really tough.